Hello everyone, it's Alicia Malone from Fandango, and I feel like the luckiest girl right now because I'm here at South by Southwest, sandwiched by the incredible and talented Danny Boyle. Hi.
Hello Fandango.
And also Ewan McGregor.
Hello.
And we're here talking about T2 Trainspotting, a film which I am so lucky that I've already seen. Loved it. Now, if you guys have comments or questions, write them below, and then we've got Lucy over there with the whiteboard. She's going to show me your question, and I will pass them on to these guys. But just to start off with, I didn't realize how much I missed these characters till I saw them on screen. Did you feel a bit like tourists in the nostalgia of your film, making this again?
Yeah, a bit. Yeah, it was a bit like that. I mean, the reason we made it is because people talked about the characters like they knew them still. Like people on the tube in London had come up and talked to me, not about Ewan McGregor, about Wrentham. Yeah. And it's like, and about Spud and Begbie. And you never remember characters' names from movies, not really.
No.
Maybe one or two in your whole career. You remember it through Ewan. You think when Ewan played that, or... So it was amazing that, and we thought we should go back to it, when enough time had passed, really, where there was another story to tell.
But it's not strictly a sequel. Would you call it like a continuing adventure, or what would you say?
Yeah, I suppose it
feels different to a sequel.
Yeah, it's just so long after the first one, isn't it?
Yeah.
20 years later, is it still really a sequel? I don't know. It is the next chapter in the story that we get to see of their lives, And it's interesting when it starts. Like you say, these are people that you want to know what's happened to them, And so when we find out, it's satisfying. You go, oh, yeah, that's sort of right. They're all exactly where you think they might be.
Yeah, they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, they are.
It's funny, yeah.
It's so fun to see all the characters back together again, and I'm imagining this is something that you guys wouldn't have done just because you had to have the right opportunity, so there wasn't a betrayal of the audience.
That's a very good link, actually.
Really,
That's
yeah,
excellent.
very nice.
Yeah, no, it's very neat, because it is a big thing in the movie, opportunity and betrayal. It's a huge link to the first movie and what goes on in this movie, yeah. And I think you have to be, we were very conscious that, our catchword was, this better not be shite.
Yeah.
Which was a warning to us every day that we better make sure it works today, because people are going to kill you because they have such affection for the first film.
Yeah.
That you better make sure you give a good reason for going back to these guys, And so we tried to do that.
You definitely did. I saw a question from Lucy that she was putting up there, which is one that Ewan can answer. It is from Baranjeet, will Begbie be seeking revenge?
I don't know. I don't want to spoil it for anybody.
No.
But you might imagine that.
Pretty angry
You might
fellow.
imagine that for 20 years, his hatred for Renton for stealing the money has been brewing.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of this film, Renton arrives back in Scotland for the first time in 20 years. He literally walks away with the money at the end of Trainspotting, and he goes to Amsterdam, and he's lived there for the rest of his life till now, and now he's come home. And so you can decide what you think might happen with Begbie.
As I was saying to you before, I always love seeing your visual style and what you do with each film. With the first one, because there was no expectations, you really could do anything. Is there kind of a nostalgia for that kind of freedom in a way?
Yeah, you kind of don't want to copy it, but I remember thinking, what we should do is what we did on the first one, which is let as many of the ideas come out of the presence of the actors. So rather than decide things beforehand and plan everything like a huge movie, you wait until the guys are in the room, and then you come up with the ideas. If you can, you have to have a plan B, just in case nobody's in ideas mode that day, which does happen as well.
What we doing?
Like when they got a headache. After a rough night, and there were a few rough nights, as I remember on the first film. No, you want it, because then it feels like they're attached to the characters. Mm-hmm. And rather than it being a style imposed on it from the past, or, just from a kind of a modish idea, it sort of emerges out of the characters.
Yeah.
So Spud's like chaotic, absolutely chaotic, chaos as a character. So you try and shoot stuff like that with him,
And what would you say Renton's style is that works with his visual imagery?
He's two things. He's many things, Renton. He's sort of the quiet observer and the smart bleep that he's always been. But he's got a little... he's got an existential crisis going on, and he's back to try and figure out, by looking backwards, I suppose, how he's going to move forwards. which is something that maybe I'm beginning to understand a bit, you know, at this stage in life, in the mid-40s.
Yeah, and your career as well, like looking back at this film, which was so seminal to you.
Right. I think it's something that we end up doing, isn't it? We go, oh my God, it seems like yesterday, and then when you look at it, it's not. It's 20 years ago, and then you start looking forward and thinking, okay, well, where am I going? Who am I? What am I doing?
Yeah.
And I don't know that. It's interesting because we'd made the sequel when the novel came out, Irvin Welsh's novel, sequel, Porno. We wouldn't have been there yet. None of us would be old enough to be dealing with those feelings. So it's taken this long to come to the place where it sits in the characters properly, that looking back, you know.
Yeah, real sense of history. I still remember where I was when I first saw Trainspotting when I was very young, and it had such an impact on me, particularly the soundtrack. I mean, Choose Life. I still listen to Lust for Life with your intro. So from Ryan says, how big of a role does the soundtrack play with this sequel?
Yeah, that's one of the. Thank you very much for that question. It's one of the big things because the soundtrack of the original was so, had such an impact on people. We had to be careful because we wanted to use elements of it, but not in a kind of slavish way, not just copying it. So we were very lucky. Prodigy did a remix of Lust for Life for us. So you do get a bit of Iggy eventually, via Prodigy and remixed by Prodigy, and Underworld reimagined Born Slippy for us, which is wonderful in the film. And they go up to the moor where they had a famous scene in the first film. But it's very different. So it's the same but different. But in terms of the soundtrack, we also then wanted to find a modern heartbeat, like a new heartbeat for the film. And we found this band called Young Fathers in Edinburgh. And whether you see the film or not, you should check out Young Fathers. They're an amazing band from Edinburgh. They come from the same estates that Irving was writing his original stories about. Cool. So they kind of fitted with the film, even though they weren't even born when we were making the first film.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
They have that sense of history as well, and I love the Choose Life speech. And without giving anything too much away, it feels right for that kind of message to come back with this film.
Yeah, it's different because it's
a different kind of.
Well,
choice.
he said it's live. It's not a voice. I mean, the beauty of it before was it was Renton's thoughts about life laid over in this voiceover. But this is, I'm challenged to come up with a Choose Life speech after probably not having thought about it for 20 years. Angela, the character Angela, says, "What is Choose Life?" And I'm like, "What?" And then I make up a Choose Life speech for her, which reflects where we are today as opposed to where we were then. So it was so brilliant to do. I loved it. It was quite a long learn, and I remember I was the only person with it in my script because we were worried about, it leaking, and then we wanted it to be very secret. So only I and Danny had the actual Choose Life speech in our scripts, and I took my page out, and I would go up on this big hill in Edinburgh called Arthur's Seat, and I learned it up there, just walking around, going, Choose Life, and I would wander around, but it's quite windy up there, and I thought, oh my God, I was holding onto it so tight just in case it blew away,
Imagine that
somebody
leaking.
finding it.
Yeah, it'd be like gold. Like I'll
Gold
take this
dust,
to the internet.
exactly.
I remember trying to learn the Choose Life, and I'm doing a terrible Scottish accent, but
Yeah.
I love it, and I want to try and do this for the sequel as well. Being here at South by Southwest, I mean, it must be so great to think about your movie playing for American audiences in the future because it's already played so well in the UK.
Yeah, we've been very fortunate. It's played brilliantly at home, which should always be its toughest market in a way because it's from there and about there, and we've been very lucky. And it's wonderful to bring it here, because especially this festival, which is really about indie films, and that indie sensibility. And that was one of the things, despite the fact that we've all been very lucky in our careers since, and we deliberately made the film in the mode of an indie film, so that we didn't take too much money, because I thought that would ruin it if we you could have got a lot of money because a lot of people wanted to invest in it, but we wanted to cap it so that you could feel that the film was made on the floor with the actors rather than being some huge event movie, So very proud to bring it back to South by Southwest,
Well, here's a good question from Tom. Did you discover anything surprising about these characters now that it's 20 years later? Something that maybe you didn't know about Renton that you can reveal?
Well, I don't know, because it feels like nothing came as a surprise because it felt just right. So as I was reading the script for the first time, it all just felt like, it just felt like a fact. These are the facts of these people. Like, their lives have been going on for the last 20 years, and here they are. So nothing struck me as being a surprise about it. I guess they're sort of where you think they might be. I think.
Yeah.
I mean, Wrentham in a way, I suppose, is the one who. The surprising thing about him is he's replaced his heroin addiction or his drug addiction with an addiction of something that's much better for you, which is like fitness and health. And in the novel, not so much in our movie, but the novel has been running a gym in Amsterdam for all these years. And he's a sort of gym rat, you know. And we took that more into the sort of the running realm, that he's a runner and he loves to run. And he speaks to Spud at one point at the top of that beautiful hill I was telling you about.
Gorgeous.
About encouraging Spud to not try and, you know, you're an addict, so just be addicted, but be addicted to something else.
Yeah.
And it's a sweet scene. And so maybe that's the surprise, is that Renton's not like a skaghead anymore.
I know, and he looks pretty good after years of using heroin. Yeah, he looks great.
That.
He looks great.
Saying that.
For an addict, for the first one, I'm addicted to the original Trainspotting. So this felt like a hit for me once again, to see similar touches, homages to the first, shots that felt similar. Was this really a love letter to the fans?
Oh, that's an interesting way of putting it, actually. I mean, you do feel an obligation to what everybody did for us. I think we were all conscious of that. It's an amazing feeling that it was a crazy film to make at the time, and people lifted it out from a very, very small place and made it, you know, put us all in kind of where we are now, really, in a way. And you felt an obligation to actually, if you were going to return, if you were going to make that step, then you had to do something that would really be worthy to sit beside the other movie, and that people wouldn't feel betrayed. They wouldn't feel that the first one, if it remains their favourite, that it wouldn't be besmirched.
It wouldn't be a retread of the
it's
first,
not just
but
a retread of it.
also a nod to the first, because you want to see certain things.
And there's a weird thing in it, which is that you can eventually, I hope, put the second film first. And sort of, there's this weird thing happens at the end of the film with Spud, and that leads to him at the beginning of, I think leads to him at the beginning of the first film. So there's a loop back in a curious kind of way, and I hope one day they'll play the movies like that.
So like an infinity loop that just keeps rolling around. And that brings us to a question from Ryan. Would you ever consider a third installment?
Oh my God.
What would it take for a third?
Yeah, we'd be very elderly by then. I would be anyway. You have to be careful what you wish for. This is how the second one started. Everybody started asking questions like that.
So, we're already starting it before it comes out.
It's like it's not even out yet. No.
Come on, T3.
I think it's got what I loved about it that's really unusual is that all these four characters, Ewan, Wrentham, and Spud and Begbie and Sick Boy, are all dealt with equally. They all share the film. That's very difficult to do in a movie, I think. You know, you tend to concentrate on one or two, and I think if you were going to do a third, you'd have to honour that again, really. Whereas...
Somebody made a poster for the third. Have you seen it?
Oh,
Already?
really?
Yeah.
Already?
You carry on, I'll find it.
You could do a spin-off character, because Irving Welsh has already written a single novel about Begbie called The Blade Artist, which is very interesting.
Oh, elderly Trainspotting. See if you can hold it up.
Show it to the camera.
I love that. I love that.
Oh my God, who did
So
that?
good.
I don't know, it's online somewhere, but isn't it good?
I love it.
Look at that.
That is awesome. I mean, it must feel so nice when you see a lot of interaction from the fans. How often do people come up to you? Is it every day to talk about Trainspotting?
No, it's by far the most, you know, when people come up and they go, some people come up and go, what do you think my favourite film of yours is?
Yeah.
And they're challenged, you're like, I don't know.
I don't know.
Usually the ones who like an obscure one, but I would say Trainspotting's probably the most often one, second only to the motorcycle documentaries that I made, which seem to be the most popular one of all. You know, 25 years in acting, and people really like my documentaries.
Because you've got a sense of the true you and getting beaten up in
maybe
those
that's what it
cars
is. People think because it is just me.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's so loved, like Danny says, you know, and that was at the back of her mind all the time. You know, don't fuck it up. Don't let's not make it shite.
Let's not make it shit. Well, we have to wrap it up here. But Danny Boyle and Ewan McGregor, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you very much.
I'm so happy that you chose me to talk about your life in movies. I don't know, I'm stretching. I'm Alicia Malone here with Fandango. I'll see you soon. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.